Everybody, Steve here for Who To My Dice, and today I want to talk about 3D printing. It is no longer the future, it is the now. And I've seen a lot of stuff popping up about how 3D printing could mean the end of the hobby. We could 3D print companies out of existence and so on and so forth. I've had some experience with 3D printing now. I've printed a number of models, terrain, accessories. I want to go just an overview of them. At the same time, I want to give you my thoughts on exactly where 3D printing can take us and the potential and some of the pitfalls. Let's do this. 3D printing, I remember it probably about a decade ago, was the future. It was this thing on the horizon. It was very, very cool. It was a unique way of, big in the maker culture. You can print anything you want. I've seen people print robotic arms, buildings, vehicles, complex toys to very, very simple gadgets and gizmos, whatever you want to call them. It runs the gamut. Now, when it comes to our hobby, it is in a very murky place right now, I think. Again, as I said before, there's people who think that this could be the end of the hobby. I seriously doubt that. I think most companies, many right now, have already 3D printing their stuff, but others, like the big ones like Games Workshop, I think will get into 3D printing at some point. They're going to have to. It is going to be an inevitability of the hobby, 3D printing. In fact, some people say they're already 3D printing their stuff. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't work for them anymore. Haven't for years and years and years. I have no idea. I think 3D printing, once it gains a wide enough audience, I know lots of people have them in their homes. Once it becomes even more accessible, I think it could change the hobby in a very positive way. Yes, there is a very good chance that it could go the opposite way, and some things have already happened, and we'll get to that in a little bit when it comes to things like the intellectual property. And there's been a lot of stuff about that already. There was massive lawsuits around that sort of thing. But let's get to looking, whatever you want to call it, what I've been doing with it and where I've gone with it. So first off, to boldly print where many others have printed before. This is some of the Star Trek stuff I've done. I've got a cool little shuttle here, Type 4 shuttle. I've got one of the Horta. That's from the original series, one of those silicone-based creatures. I just put it on just printed off, it came with a base on it there, but that's cool. And of course, a transporter room, a cool bit of terrain there. I even painted up the controls there for it. And all these, this is several years apart. These I printed many years ago. This is just very recent. And you can actually tell the difference between the printers. This is all from a colleague of mine. This is an older printer. You can see the printer lines in it. It's hard to see there, but you can hear it. There's printer lines there and lots of roughness on the bottom. This is far cleaner, far nicer. You really can't see the lines. I mean, they're still there, obviously, but much, much nicer. Even this thing, the Horta, you can see, it's hard to see on the camera there, but there's lots of lines on it. You can see the print lines. So just several different generations of printers within the last 6-7 years. War never changes. So this is some stuff I printed up again over the years. Some cool Fallout stuff. Of course, a guy in power armor, a Yao Guai, some cool defenses here. Again, these are printed many years ago on an older machine. These ones on a newer machine. Again, you can tell the difference, how it's evolved. These ones are a bit rougher. Again, you can see the lines in them. These ones, much, much nicer, much, much smoother, and the lines are very, very much less. Actually, was cool. The bases themselves are separate from the Yao Guai and our happy little guy in the XO1 power armor. Cool bits of terrain here that I painted up. Some barriers. A lot of fun. And, of course, this as well I painted up. Or, sorry, I printed and painted up, obviously. With the painting, again, very, very cool. But now we start getting into, even with the Star Trek stuff, where IP comes in. So intellectual property is probably one of the biggest hurdles, obstacles, problems that 3D printing in the future is going to have to overcome. Now, a lot of companies, it seems pretty easy, they've gotten past it because they just name it something different. And that's a problem that's been going on for years. Same problem, It depends on how you look at it. From our point of view as a hobbyist, having access to all these different bits or older models, or let's face it, cheaper models, is a great thing. With the prices going up on everything, we look at tariffs. That's a big thing in the news right now. I live in Canada, so it's a major issue up here. Things are going up. Prices are always increasing. It's like $200 in Canada for a combat patrol. That's not even your basic army anymore. So yeah, having access to really nice printers to get us models that we want is really, really cool. However, depending on how you look at it, it's also illegal. Now, IP can get very, very complicated very, very quickly. A lot of them, some places in the world don't even care about intellectual property. Some places it's wildly different than other ones. I know in the States, it's basically more of a you use it or lose it sort of proposition. Back in 2015, Games Workshop went through an issue with that with a company called Chapter House. Now, it was a different type of it wasn't 3D printing, to say, but it was somebody making Games Workshop's intellectual property that got this massive lawsuit going on, money back and forth. I've talked about before, but it's been a while now. It's been a decade since it happened. However, what happened at that point is Chapter House was making third-party bits for Games Workshop stuff using non-Games Workshop names. So they had heads and legs and body parts for Space Marines they called Space Knights. They had alien arms, which were all the Tyranid bits that Games Workshop just didn't make. Games Workshop, especially in the 2000s, early 2000s, early 2010s, had a habit of going, here's a stat line, here's a cool character or unit, but we're not making a model for it, so you can make your own. Very, very cool, until you start getting into intellectual property regions, which is what happened. Games Workshop had released a Space Wolves Codex with the Thunderwolf Cavalry, which lots of people love now, but no models came out with the Codex, and they kept not coming out. People were taking Space Wolves and throwing them on Goblin wolves, like from the Wolf Riders. This is a problem. So Chapter House made some fantastic looking cybernetic wolves with Space Knight legs on them. The problem is they put Thunderwolf Cavalry in the name on their website. Cue the lawyers, cue massive lawsuit, bringing in experts on science fiction. Who coined the term Space Marine first? It was a messy problem. It ended up with money, like I said, going back and forth. Games Workshop had to redo lots of stuff. They lost the rights to some stuff because someone else made it. It's great that you came up with it. It's great that you created stat lines and rules, but you didn't actually make a model and someone else did. It's why all the codexes were renamed. It's why they call them the Adeptus Astartes now instead of Space Marines, the Astra Militarum, the Drukhari, the Eldari, all that stuff, because you can't copyright names like Eldar or Space Marine or Imperial Guard. It just doesn't, you can't do it. That's a problem that I think 3D printing has to come to terms with. I remember back in 2015 when I was in college again, I had to take a writing course. It was a technical writing course, and we had to do a technical write-up on something we enjoyed. So I took the hobby and I decided to do some 3D printing. I 3D printed off this little bit of a guard defense. All right, from, I can't remember, one of the old defense sets there that came with a bunch of barriers and a autocannon, a quad autocannon. I printed it off, I cited all my sources, I said this is what it did. I printed it at the college I was going to. When I went back to show my professor that particular, where it came from, I think it was Thingiverse, I can't remember, it was gone. And I've seen that many times. People will print up something, they'll come up with files, of course you go to it and you get the 404 error, oh, we can't find it, sorry. That's a continuing problem. And that's why I think eventually companies are going to have to start moving to 3D printing. I think it's a way for them. Again, that comes with its own costs, server costs and storage costs and all that. I think eventually, I think all companies are going to have to move there. So we're going to look at a few more things here. And here to wrap it all up, we have a whole bunch of 40K stuff that I've 3D printed, or at least sci-fi stuff that I plan to or have used for 40K related stuff. Some of you may recognize, some of you may not. Again, this is over the years. I've got some cool computer banks over here. This one I haven't printed yet. I have these cool tokens. They're hard to see, but they do have ultramarine symbols on them. And they go through 1 through 6 over here. See that nice little ultramarine symbol there. Of course, these I used in my Halloween thing. They are cool walls that someone created to add on to the the Space Marine 2 board game with obviously Lieutenant Titus and a whole bunch of gaunts. These were to give actual walls. The mat that you play on has quote-unquote walls under, just basically black lines. This gave some extra detail. Again, someone made this, and again, this ultramarine symbol, the Imperials, the Space Marine symbols there, all stuff that is on my Games Workshop. You might recognize this piece here from the Christmas special I did, and this is a relatively new one. Someone came up with a small tank here, saying they use it as a proxy for Sentinels. I thought that was really cool, and I printed it off. Didn't take me long to do. Just put together a cool little tank. I've actually painted up in a Mobian 21st style because I'm thinking of doing that. But regardless, again, more cool stuff here. It's great to print off terrain because terrain is expensive. This is great too. Objectives, some cool scatter terrain. Very, very fun, very, very unique. They add character and just a great fun to do. And it didn't cost me anything to make them other than some time. It took several hours to print these different things off. This piece right here, all the separate parts, was about 4 hours a bit. This is around the same. These were much less because of their size. Both of these took, I think, about 3 or 4 hours as well. So that is another trade-off to 3D printing. One, I think a lot of people are weighing the cost now and saying, yeah, I'd rather wait the time than actually paying the price. And that is another thing why I think this 3D printing is just going to get more and more intrinsically involved in our hobby. And I think every company that's out there right now will eventually bend the knee, bow the head, however you want to say it, to the 3D printing gods, and will most likely come up with some way of getting files out there to people who want to maybe spend less. Do I think it'll be much less? Probably not. But I think it's a fancy alternative and a wonderful alternative to what's going on out there right now in the hobby. Could it mean the end of companies? That is, I think, the biggest question. Some people think yes, some people think no. I think it's going to have to be a very careful balancing act when it comes to that. So there, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. That is my view on 3D printing. I think it's here to stay. Could it be a danger to our hobby? Could we see companies disappear? I don't know, to be honest. I hope not. I try to lean towards a bit more positivity when it comes to the hobby. Lots and lots of companies have come and gone long before there was 3D printing. I think as long as the bigger companies start getting on board with it, we could see it become a very valuable, maybe cost-effective way of doing the hobby. We'll have to see. It's up to those companies, entities like Games Workshop. How much do they charge right now for a squad of intercessors? How much would they charge for a STL file, whatever file you want, for a squad of intercessors that you're going to print off at home? Quality would obviously be a issue, right? As I mentioned before, you can see some of the differences in the last 6 years between stuff I printed many years ago and stuff I printed rather recently. It does look more refined. It does look better with these newer machines that are coming out, the better machines, better technology. Or are we just going to get into sort of another arms race of tech where you have to have certain levels or you have to have a certain machine that they only want you to print on this? To get more into the other rights things, and there have been some really weird rights stuff and licensing stuff when it comes to Games Workshop. I remember back in the day, I'm gonna say it a lot, I'm an old guy now, when I worked at Games Workshop back in 2007, I'll get there eventually, we had licensing stuff where we could not mix 40K your fantasy with Lord of the Rings. Just didn't allow it. So again, how are you going to police that? Who knows? Let me know what you guys think. This is just me blurting it out here, giving you my view. I think 3D printing's great. I've obviously done a lot of it, not as much as some other people. But let me know what you think, guys. And thank you very much for watching. Keep rolling those dice. I'll see you later.